Welcome to Commander Tilt. My name is Clark. This is the 5th battle in my Rush tournament, and this time I'm just going to talk a little bit about how I built the two decks that I'm going to be playing. The Madness deck was built a little different from every other deck, or most every other deck in the competition, in the fact that I already had this Madness deck set up as a 60-card modern deck. I think maybe more like kitchen table, but yeah, it was already set up and it was already playing as a 60-card deck. So what I did was I took it apart and I found the cheaper cards and the greatest interactions in those lower end cards and made it into a 30-card deck. And I thought I'd see if I can play it. Now, this deck is centered around the Madness theme. It has vampires as a sub-theme, and Falkenrath Gorger is one of the key centerpieces of the deck because it allows every other vampire to have Madness. And of course, it's got Vampire Nighthawk and Heir to Falkenrath and a lot of these really good hard-hitting vampires. The other deck that we're playing against, randomly selected, was a Blue Flyers deck that I put together. Blue's got a lot of flying synergies to begin with and a lot of low mana Blue Flyers, as well as Favored Winds. And Favored Winds is a great card to put in a flying deck, especially because it only costs 2 mana. So that's the two decks that are going to go against each other, and I hope you enjoy the fight. Okay, I roll dice to see who goes first. Looks like the blue deck gets to go first. Put down an island, and then tapping the island, we're going to put down a Terramander, a 1/1 flying creature. The Madness deck will put down a mountain and pass the turn. Blue deck will untap, put down a second island, and then tapping 2, we'll put down Ether Swooper. I forget to put the energy counter down. Moving to combat, we'll swing with the Terramander for 1 and pass the turn. The Madness deck will tap the red mana for Falkenrath Gorger, and then putting down another mountain, tap it for Stromkirk Noble, and then pass the turn. Blue will untap. We'll put down an island as our land for turn. And then we're going to tap 2 mana for Favorable Winds. This pumps our creatures +1/+1, because all our creatures are flying. It only pumps flying creatures. Next, we're going to move to combat. We'll swing with both creatures. Again, I forgot about that energy counter. I could have a Thopter on the board here, but with that, the damage is done. We'll pass the turn. The Madness deck will put down a swamp. Then we're going to tap 2 mana for Heir to Falkenrath, Heir of Falkenrath. Moving to combat with no blockers, we're going to swing with both our creatures, dealing 3 damage and pass the turn. This makes a Stromkirk Noble pump up by +1/+1 because it deals damage to a player. Blue will untap, take its draw. Next, blue's going to tap 3 mana for Warden of Evos Isle. And then we'll pass the turn because of that Heir of Falkenrath. The Madness deck will discard to the Heir to Falkenrath, and then for Madness cost, cast the discarded Falkenrath Gorger. We'll put a mountain down as our land for turn, and then we'll pass the turn with no good attacks. Blue will put down an island, and then tapping 2 mana, we'll put down Favorable Winds, which pumps all of our creatures bigger. Now with a big board of huge flyers, we'll swing with all 3 of our flying creatures. The Heir to the Night will block the 3/3 flyer, so the 2 of them trade, but 7 damage still gets through from the other 2 flyers. And with that, blue wins the first battle. For the second battle, Madness will go first. We'll put down a mountain, and then tapping it, put down a Falkenrath Gorger and pass the turn. I noticed here both of my decks were upside down. The magic symbols are upside down. It's kind of funny. Blue will just put down an island and pass the turn. Madness will skip its land drop or miss its land drop, but attack with the Falkenrath Gorger for 2 and then pass. We'll put down an island. And then tapping 2 mana, we'll put down Welkin Turn. It can only block flying creatures, but it flies. Next, Madness will untap, putting down a second mountain. We'll tap with the Falconwrath, or attack with the Falconwrath Gorger, dealing 2 more damage, since the turn can't block. Next, we'll tap 1 red mana for Stromkirk Noble. Looks a lot like the last game, huh? Next, it's Blue's turn. Blue will untap and then put down an island. Next, we're going to tap 2 mana for Favorable Winds. And we'll put a counter on the Welkin turn, hitting for 3 damage on combat. And then we'll pass. Madness will untap. Madness will put down a swamp. Next, we're going to tap 2 mana for Heir to Falconwrath. No, to Ravenous Bloodseeker. Next, we're going to go ahead and swing with the 2 creatures that don't have Summoning Sickness and deal 3 more damage. This pumps the Stromkirk Noble +1/+1. We'll go ahead and discard a card to the Ravenous, and then tapping 1 mana, cast it for the Madness cost. Honestly, I could have just straight cast it. It was just fun to do that way. And we'll pass the turn. The blue deck will untap. Taking our draw, we'll put down an island as our land for turn. We'll tap 1 mana for Bubble Snare, putting it on the Stromkirk Noble. So the Stromkirk Noble cannot untap. And then we'll pass the turn. Madness will go to untap. The Stromkirk Noble stays tapped. We'll go ahead and discard a card for the Ravenous Bloodseeker, discarding Fiery Temper, but then cast it for its Madness cost, dealing 3 damage, which is lethal to the blue deck, and Madness wins the second round. I rolled dice and the blue deck won, so blue will put down an island and then pass. Madness will put down a mountain and then pass. Blue will put down an island, and then blue gets to cast the first spell, Night Veil Sprite, and passes the turn. Madness will put down a mountain and pass the turn. Blue will put down its third island, and then tapping 2 mana, we'll put out Ether Swooper. And this time I remember the energy counter, so we get 2 energy. Move into combat, we'll swing with the Night Veil Sprite for 1 and pass the turn. Madness will put down a swamp, and then tapping 2 mana, we'll put down Heir of Falconwrath, and then tapping 1 mana, we'll put down the Falconwrath Gorger and pass the turn. The blue deck will put down an island, and then we'll swing with both of our creatures. We'll spend the energy to create a Thopter, which comes into play. With no mana available to Madness, I'm pretty sure it's not going to be able to discard a card, and well, I guess it could still discard it, but not Madness it. We'll Surveil off that Night Veil Sprite and leave it on top. Madness chooses to go ahead and discard a swamp and makes the Heir of the Night, then blocks the Night Veil Sprite. So only 1 damage gets through. Next, we're going to play Soaring Show Off. Both decks get to draw a card. If it had been an instant speed card, then Madness would have had a chance to cast it, but otherwise you got to discard it because of the nature of this format. Madness will draw or play Tormenting Voice. We get to draw 2 cards and then discard a card. So first we'll go ahead and draw 2 cards, and then we're going to discard Olivia's Dragoon. But then we'll go ahead and spend the mana to cast Olivia's Dragoon off that Madness trigger from the Falconwrath Gorger. Moving to combat, we'll swing with the Heir of the Night. It's a 3/2 flyer, so it's the biggest thing on the board. Oh, but blue decides to trade block it, so pass the turn. Blue gets to untap. Blue doesn't have an island to put down, but it can play favorable winds, which pumps both of the creatures that we have. Moving to combat, we're going to swing with just the Ether Swooper, dealing 2 damage. Then we're going to tap the mana for Glimmer Bell. It's a 1/3 flyer, but it's pumped because of favorable winds. And we'll pass the turn. We only attacked with that one creature because that vampire can fly. Basically, he can jump. Madness deck will cast Lightning Axe and deal 5 damage to the Glimmer Bell. And then this is funny. I actually forgot to take the Glimmer Bell off the board. We'll discard to the Lava Axe trigger, but then go ahead and cast the card that we discarded, which was Vampire Nighthawk because of Falconwrath Gorger. Then we'll discard a card to Olivia's Dragoons, which is Fiery Temper, and then we'll spend the single mana to cast that as well. But we do that straight to the face of the blue deck. But then blue casts Spell Pierce, countering the Fiery Temper, so nothing happens. It fizzles. Blue will untap. Blue will go ahead and draw. We'll put down an island. And then tapping 2 mana, we'll cast Unexplained Disappearance on the Vampire Nighthawk, which puts it back in its hand. Next, moving to combat, we're going to swing with all 3 of our flying creatures. Well, the Madness deck will discard a card to Olivia's Dragoons, causing it to fly, and it'll block the Thopter, which kills it. Now, right here, the Glimmer Bell's not supposed to be there, so the Madness deck's supposed to be at 4 health instead of 2. But as you'll see later on, it doesn't matter. I actually thought about re-recording this entire video because of that error right there, but it turns out it doesn't matter any. Blue will cast a Welkin Turn, which is pumped by favorable winds, and then also cast Hypnotic Sprite, which is also pumped by favorable winds. And then blue will pass the turn. Madness will untap. Madness will spend the mana to cast the spell Heir of Falconwrath, and then go ahead and discard a card and flip it, but then because of Falconwrath Gorger, we'll spend the mana to cast the discarded card, which is Ravenous Bloodseeker. Putting down a Swamp as our land for turn, we'll pass the turn. Blue will untap. Blue will take its draw, putting down another island. Next, we're going to tap 2 mana for Fairy Duelist. It lets me put a -2/-0 counter, and we'll put that on the Heir to Falconwrath, making it effectively a 1/2. Next, we're going to tap the mana for Favorable Winds, which pumps all of the creatures another +1/+1. And every creature in this deck is flying, so all of them get pumped. Next, moving to combat, we're going to swing with every creature. Madness goes ahead and tries to take the blocks. And you'll notice here we blocked the Glimmer Bell, so 8 damage gets through. But if you take that Glimmer Bell off and still block, then 3 damage would get through. And of course, at that point, Madness still had 1 life left. But looking at that army that the flying deck had put together, there was no way the flying deck was going to win, so I went ahead and conceded. Well, there you have it. The Blue Flyers deck pulls out a come-from-behind victory, and we have Blue Flyers moving on to the next round. I sure appreciate you watching this video today, and I look forward to seeing you again next time. Have a great day. Thank you so much for watching. I do have a Patreon page, and I would love it if you would visit my page and take a look at the rewards that are available. It would help me out a lot. Remember to like and subscribe and hit that bell notification so you hear about my latest videos. Have a great day.